So welcome everyone, my name is Sarah Watt and this is officially my very first ever podcast. I chose to start a podcast called Consciousness Road Trip and I'm so excited today for this to be the very first one and that I have the amazing, wonderful Mark Kerr on as my very first guest. Welcome.
Oh my God! Thank you, Sarah. We got there.
We got there. So yeah, I guess today, one of the things that I wanted to talk about was not waiting in creation. And I wanted to start this podcast and call it Consciousness Road Trip as a bit of a pun because we travel a lot. I travel the world working on and with and for Access Consciousness classes. The plan actually with this podcast was to take it with me all around the world. But it's funny that at the moment, where are we sitting?
At our kitchen table.
In sunny Australia.
It is.
We're about to kick off the Australian tour here and, it's kind of a little bit funny that this is where I've chosen to start the podcast, that my plan was to have travelling around the world with me.
And have like some amazing international guest.
Exactly.
And it backfired, right?
That's one way of looking at it, but I would like to think that, is now the time.
Well, if now isn't, when is?
Exactly. And I think even looking at this, anyone that is a humanoid like us, like a person that functions from this place of never having enough and always wanting more. I don't know about you guys or about you, Mark, but for me, I never am satisfied. It's never enough. And I come up with a billion different ideas about things every day. The podcast being one of them. And then because I didn't make it happen right away, I would then make myself wrong about that and, not getting it started. But today it was like...
And then make yourself wrong about making yourself wrong that you didn't start it.
Yep. And I guess if you've got to be good at something, you might as well be really good at that.
Exactly.
And enjoy the hell out of it as well.
Exactly.
So I thought stuff it. And today, I've asked a friend, I've had a graphic designed and I've got a web page that's almost done. And a friend of mine's going to actually do an intro and outro jingle. Maybe we can use that in the meantime. But he's not available until after Christmas. So I could have waited again. And I thought, no, what if we just start and we just go and we just see where it goes from here? So...
And we've got this nice new shiny microphone with a spit protector on it and everything, haven't we?
Well, you don't know how wild things are going to get at our kitchen bench.
Vroom.
So looking at that energy of not waiting in your creation, is there anything that comes up? I've watched you create a very different life over the past, it's been 12 months, right? Or
the last 12 months has the rock jumped on the rocket ship, I'll say.
Are you the rock or the rocket ship?
I don't know if I'm either some of the times, to tell you the truth. I try not to think about it too much and work it out because we all know how productive that is. But definitely the last 12 months, from summer tour last year to now, the year before, a few things were changing, had a few trips. Everything was going good, and then this year has just been a mind blower. I know I put it out there and asked to travel 2 months, sort of 2 weeks out of the month, and that happened straight away. January we were in China and Japan. I think we came home for about 6 days and went straight to Houston. And then I think the longest I've been home all year was 5 weeks straight, and as amazing as the Sunshine Coast is, and we live in a beautiful big house which is full of light and air, and we've got the beach down the road. It's just not enough anymore.
Yep.
So
what is that? What is it that traveling and moving and being all around the world, what is that creates for you?
I suppose nothing's ever the same.
Mm-hmm.
You wake up each morning and you're in a new place. Could be something as simple as you go and have a coffee at a different shop and you say g'day, or try and interpret the local language as best as a young Australian lad can to communicate with someone, and you just never know who you're going to meet. And if you can crack up a conversation, where that's going to go to, and then obviously we're off to classes most days, we're away, and you never know what you're going to walk into, how Dane's going to be, what Gary's going to do, Brendan and Simone. it's just new and it's exciting each day, and just cool people and new stuff's created. So.
And so, like, in this last 12 months that you've done quite a bit of traveling, like, how many, do you have a ballpark on how many countries you've visited, or?
Oh, goodness. Well, like I said before, no, January we started out China, Japan, then went to Houston. Then I was lucky enough to go back to Europe for the first time in like 15 years. And I think I've been to Europe 3 or 4 times this year now.
Yep.
Central America. We went to Bogota, Argentina, which were brand new for me. A few quick stopovers in a couple of other countries, so it must be, I don't know, 10 or 12
Yep.
newbies, and it's never enough.
And as a young, 20-something-year-old gentleman,
Yes, thank you.
24, let's say.
Yep.
Prior to this year, how much travel had you done before that?
15 or so years ago, which would have made me
very
young infant. I went to Europe for about 8 weeks, I think. Mm-hmm. Schoolboys, I went to New Zealand and played a bit of rugby, and then did a couple of trips with the daughter to Thailand and Vanuatu, but very little actually. And then this year, in like the last 18 months, has just been, there's no words.
Yep.
There's no words. So, like I said, it's amazing. You go and you meet new people, and I don't know if it's an old cliche, but a new friend is just a hello or a ciao, come at me,
Bonjour.
a bonjour away, and it's really amazing. So, you got to ask that question again too. What else is next, and what else cool stuff can we create and be? So
Yeah, and we're home in Australia at the moment because we kick off the Aussie tour here in 2 weeks. A lot of the travel that we do for these classes is based around kind of tours and areas of the world, and once a year we get to play in our own backyard and be in Australia and create some amazing classes here as well. So, like, what's it like being home for you? Like, what's Australia, and how has that changed for you with what you're creating now?
Australia is still absolutely amazing, and I'm fidgeting a little bit here, and you can't do that on podcasts. So
no fidgeting.
Look, summer tour is a great time of year because you get to go to the classes, and you get your friends from other countries. A lot of them will come out to Australia too, and it's sort of like our hometown, which it is pretty much on show. And it's the classes. I actually made a little video this morning on the beach about the summer tour. The classes can get quite intense and really uncomfortable. They, last year, summer tour was just undescribable for me. But when you're in an area like the Sunshine Coast and the classes, which are pretty much on the beach, mm-hmm. the venues are, a short stone's throw from the beach. You can get up in the morning and you can go to the beach and get your feet in the sand or walk in the national parks, and they talk about space and communion with the earth and ease and all that sort of stuff, and I just think it adds so much to the classes, either before or then after. You can go and swap bars on the beach, and it's just so nice. Like you say, we travel a lot and we go to some big cities which are pretty intense with people and their history and all that type of thing. But to me, coming home and doing the classes, it's just ease and it's light.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's what I love about it. But is there something else to your question?
No, I don't think so. I'm kind of like just on to the next thing already, as I generally do. So, like, looking at like this 12 months or, even 2 years and what you've created in that time, was there a moment where something really clicked for you, or something changed, or was there a point in time where I don't know, almost like a light bulb moment for you when this game and this thing that we play with called consciousness really kicked in and started to become a lot more?
It was well over a year ago, and it might have even been over 2 years ago, or I don't know now, lose time. But it was just one of those things where I'd done a couple of classes, enjoyed them, I suppose, put the toe in the water, was still doing other jobs and things like that. And I can't really pinpoint it. Actually, no, I went away. I went to Fraser Island and I came back and I got really sick. And I'd never been sick like that before, but I'd been away with my friends, and they were friends I grew up with who are all amazing guys, but it just wasn't the same anymore. You know, like they all go away for a week, and the thought of spending a week with these great guys in a little house and just, it was too much. And then I came home and I got really sick, and I suppose I was like wiped out for a week. And trying to put a few things together, and I wouldn't say it was head tripping, but something just came to me where it was like, you know what, I put the toe in the water with this. I'm not happy sort of in the work or with a lot of stuff I'm doing. And, you know, I'd seen quite a few other people who had made the choice to have a crack, so to speak. And that was just it. Am I in or am I out? And I just said, yep. I'm in. I had no idea what it was going to look like, what I was going to do. Mm-hmm. But it was just one of those things, I suppose, where, yep, the decision's made and who knows what's going to come from that. And it's that was probably the first bit, and then little dribs and drabs of things sort of happened. There was another summer tour where I got invited to work on a couple of classes, and yeah, a lot of cool stuff just happened from then. And you know, it's obviously a day-to-day thing, like everyone. You think, what the fuck's, well, beep, what's going on?
You can swear on my podcast, it's fine.
And what's next? And sometimes nothing sort of springs, and you go into a bit of a tailspin. Where's the next check going to come from? How am I going to pay to this? I want to go to this class. How am I going to get there? And it's always worked out. Whether or not the money for a plane ticket has turned up 36 hours before I'm supposed to leave for a class, which has been a little bit stressful.
Yeah.
But it's just, I suppose, backing yourself. And it's easy to say, but I suppose just making the choice and going with it, and yeah.
Well, I mean, a few times in that as well, you've sort of brushed on, this happened and that happened, but how much of it really was happening and how much was it where you've...
Yeah, a lot of the things which have occurred in the last 12, 18 months, maybe even 2 years, it's men's health and men's well-being and things like that is something I've always had I don't know if it's been an interest or it's drawn me. You know, working in the construction and mining industry, you always came across guys who, quite often it could be pretty miserable. You know, these guys weren't happy, whether it was with home life or they were over the job, but financially they were committed with wives and children and didn't think there was anything else out there. And I always used to say, it's as if I've got a big counsellor sticker written on my hard hat. I'd always have guys just coming up and talking to me and, you know, spewing their information or something. Mm-hmm. And then...
so what are you doing now around that? Like,
as most people may know out there, Dr. Dane here wrote a book called Return of the Gentleman, and Gary Douglas has the Gentleman's Club. Mm-hmm. So myself and a few other great mates are facilitating that class all around the world. It's actually happened now, so that's still a work in progress, and we've got a lot building to it. But it's great. And just jutting back quickly, you know, how we got here. I know I did a video. I had a couple of friends take their own lives at different times, and I just thought, this is ridiculous. It's bullshit. Why is this happening? And then I posted this video, got a heap of views and comments from people I didn't know, and then some other things happened, and then boom, here we are at the Return of the Gentleman. So things may not happen overnight, but I suppose if you're still taking those steps in that little direction, it may not turn up how you think, but it will somehow. So,
and I think, like, for me, like, it's so awesome to hear your story and how so many people I speak to, there's this similar thing with, you know, a lot of the time in classes, Gary Douglas, the founder of Access, and you know, the other facilitators, as well as all the facilitators, talk about, like, what our strengths are, like our wrongness being our strongness, and also like the choices that we have available that no one else has. And for me, doing Access over these years and looking at like, well, what actually is consciousness? You know, Access says it's consciousness includes everything and judges nothing, which is just like this thing that sort of makes your brain turn to mush, because that doesn't really give you anything cognitive to grab onto. But the more I talk to people about this, the more I realize like consciousness is this place where, like you spoke about, you've always had this sense in your world about wanting to contribute to men and to people that were, you know, having a tough time in life or whatever that looks like. And then you know, things quote unquote happening to you, but actually you, whether it be cognitively or not, starting to make choices that are going to gravitate you towards that place, that fire that's always burned in your world. Like, and that for me is where I start looking at consciousness as this thing that can be a little bit more cognitive, because you start to see places where you create things that really are from a place where it's you, like it's you as a being, and really.
Yeah, it's. I suppose leading on from the men's stuff, I suppose it's just a thing of being you.
Yep.
And that's, you know, when we do the Return of the Gentleman stuff, it's almost, well, it's not almost, it is. That's where I come from, and try and facilitate what I do is from being you, whatever that looks like. It's going to be different for you to what it is to me, to what it can be from Saul, Romain or Hannes, the other boys who do the class with me. Everyone's different, everyone's them, but by being yourself, how that can contribute and be an invitation. I like that word invitation. I use that a lot with the classes, where for other people to be the same, whatever that looks like, whoever it's going to upset, whoever it's not going to toe the line with, family, friends, employees, whatever, but that space of being you, which is light. We say, you know, what's light is true, what's lie is heavy, and all that sort of stuff, without getting off track. But trying to get that lightness and the joy and the invitation to, you're not dragging on other people, but when you're an invitation, you can't help but have other people drawn to you, because there's so much, I suppose, not even negativity, but crap and barriers, I suppose, put in the way of people wanting to be them, that when you find someone who is that invitation, it's great to have people come along. So,
and who's been that invitation for you?
That's not a technical difficulty, then it was just me with a pause. Look, obviously from the books, Dane and Gary. Seeing Brendan go from, you know, a tradie, which I was as well, to where he is today. But I suppose a lot of people just around me, mm-hmm. you know, whether it be the other three boys from the Gentlemen's Club, some other guys who are involved with Access, you seeing the changes you've made in your life, and mm-hmm. and other people I've met too. I can't pinpoint it, actually.
Yeah.
I think it's just the thing of when you start hanging around and involving yourself with, look, Simone, God, how wasn't she in the top couple? You know, when you surround yourself with good people who are willing to contribute to a greater, without, you know, any prejudice isn't the word, but, you know, they contribute from a place of just that.
Yep.
What can they contribute to you to bring more joy and happiness and fun, and make you more of you? You just get, you know, you fight it if you want.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, if that's the way you want to go, you get on the rapids and try and slow yourself down. So.
Give up a bit of control, maybe.
Oh man, it's fun. I'm glad you asked that, because yeah, it's a lot of people. It's a lot of people, and I find after doing the gentleman stuff, or just talking to people, when someone comes up to me and says something to me, and I'm blown away that, you know, there was something I said which was a real contribution to them, or it's not something which receiving it is it's still a work in progress for me, as fiddling with pens when it shouldn't be. But when you have someone come up to you after a class who you've never met before, and I know when I did an intro in Budapest, I had some guys come up to me who didn't come to the class, which was during the day. They specifically came for my intro, which I was blown away for anyway, and then the contribution it was to them with stuff they had going on was... It still blows my mind that to think that you can make, I don't know if it's a difference or just be a space for other people to be what they want to be.
Yeah.
You know.
And all those people you mentioned, you know, people like Gary and Dane that have written books and done classes, and then Simone, who, you know, you've done work for person, like, you know, one-on-one, as well as Brendan. But, you know, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like they never had an agenda with you. They were never like, or with anyone. They just, like what you were saying about being you, with this space of like, I'm going to show up as me. And I personally know all four of those people and how much in their world their demand is to have more consciousness in the world, to have more available for people that are choosing consciousness, and how it's really got nothing to do with there being any sort of agenda, that they're just there to create a space of invitation. And like from where I'm sitting and what I've seen you create in the last, you know, 12 or 24 months, it's exactly that same thing as well, where you set out to do nothing more than be you and create more of that goodness in the world, like whatever that is, that yummy energy of Mark Kerr, of you showing up and being more of you, and in turn how much that creates this, you know, it's like the drop of the stone in the pond where you see the ripple effect go out, and it's never like you expecting people to change and that's why I think what you were saying, when people do tell you, it's almost like a little bit of a shock. You're like, what do you mean I changed your life?
It is. It's I suppose an allowance maybe to acknowledge. And even talking about this just feels funky to me still, to acknowledge that maybe you are a difference and you are an invitation to people. And I talk about the Judgement Olympics, which I finish in the top 3.
Every year?
Well, every race. Like
every race?
Yeah.
Every event, every race, event. You're on the podium.
Oh, yeah, Judgement Olympics. And then... to have people come up to you who you've never known and said, hey, thanks very much for that, or just say g'day. Yep. You know, something simple like that is just amazing, and to have no agenda with it. And, you know, you mentioned Brendan and Simone. I know years ago I went to a class, stuff was going on, and they said, hey, you're coming to this class? And I
said yes.
And I didn't know what was going on, because I never expected this to show up, like this invitation to come to this class, and I wasn't going. But funnily enough, I was dressed as if I was going to a class, and I didn't know what to do. And this question, or this tool I use all the time still, is they said to me, well, fine, you do what is right for you, but what's your life going to be like in 5 years if you come to class, or what's your life going to be like in 5 years if you don't? And I still know the exact spot they asked me that, and I was all like, oh my God, what are they doing to me? And they still continuously do things to me like that, but I'm super grateful for it now. And you know, you can't help but want to contribute back to those sort of people, and
really that's what contribution is to have that place where you receive what they wish to contribute to you, and all the while you're in a space of always wanting to be that gift and contribution back to those people around you. And it's like you watch in nature, you know, there's just this continual place of not even back and forth, it's almost more like around and around. And you know, I've watched you create so much in these 2 years and really be in a place of someone that I see functions from contribution so well. And I love that you brought up that tool about, you know, what will my life be like in 5 years if I do choose this? What will my life be like if I don't choose this? Like overall, would you say, even though there's times where we get uncomfortable and this shit becomes very sticky and sometimes can be very, very confronting, like, would you say the tools of access consciousness are really that place where you can have ease with anything if you're willing to have it, or like what are the tools create? What do the tools create for you on a daily basis?
I'd like to say ease.
Well, easy and ease are two different things, though, right?
Oh, yeah. Easy and ease definitely are. Ease is something which I've, it's always in the top of the list of things of how I desire my life to be. But I suppose when you're always choosing and new things are coming up, a slight case of being uncomfortable most of the time is almost like the ease.
Yep.
Because I learnt pretty early on that the uncomfortableness is only a stepping stone to the greatness, maybe, and it's not a destination. Ooh, this sounds like a little cliche or something. I'm going to say
a meme maybe brewing.
There's never a destination to it. You start doing some stuff which you wanted to do. Like I said, I want to travel 2 weeks out of the month, and I accomplished that the first month of the year, and then things just, I think the longest trip I did might have been 4 or 5 weeks straight, nearly. So I think I've lost what we were talking about, but I think it was a thing of your forever choosing, and I always talk about the teeny tiny little steps. It's not like one big leap and you're where you want to get to. It's lots of little steps, and I suppose lefts and right turns and meeting someone new, and then what you thought you were going to has now changed to something new.
Even though consciousness isn't a destination, which I've just come up with, that's the name for this podcast for you.
Boom!
What next? Like, and if you could give it to me in like 60 seconds or less, what's next
Just
for Mark?
World domination.
Basically.
Pretty much.
I mean, if you're gonna
billboards, bumper stickers.
What will they say?
I don't know.
Something very funny and colloquial,
probably.
Australian, obviously.
That's it. Just have a crack.
There you
or
go.
Something like that. But
cool.
What's next? Look, it's just lots of stuff. I just want to start doing more facilitating of my own in whatever area that may look like, because like I said, you meet new people, you go somewhere new, something sounds cool, I'd like to do that, and go from there.
And how do people find you if they want to know more about?
Just loitering around
the
the back alleys and bars of the Sunshine Coast. Look, I'm on social media. I've got Facebook and that sort of stuff, or cool. You can mark her at accessconsciousness.com and stuff like that. And the Gents Club, we've got a lot of stuff on there, myself and the other boys. And I know we've got to wrap this up. Because you've probably got a good guest coming in after me.
I've got to clean the spit off the microphone.
Well, that's what that thing's for, and it's good because we're not filming, are we? It's only sound.
Well, for this one, yes.
Oh,
so
lucky.
Yeah,
it'd be really awkward if everyone saw me sitting here nude as well, wouldn't it? But anyway,
well, hey.
Yeah.
What happens at the kitchen table on Gouldian Court stays at the kitchen table.
It does.
Cool.
But,
well, thank you for popping the proverbial podcast cherry with me.
Exactly.
It made me very happy to have you as my first guest, and I'm excited to see in the next 12 months what Mark Kerr creates. And
well, let's set a date for a follow-up, can we?
Okay. Well, sure. Do it.
No worries. Yeah, look, I'm sure lots of new and exciting stuff, and it's funny, as much as I've been travelling this year, part of me wants to spend a little bit more time in Oz too, because I think, I know that there's so much available in Australia, which, Access and other facilitators, and I suppose consciousness some places have just had a little scrape. But there's still a lot of areas which would be great to build access in Australia, again, to the powerhouse that it once was. So
So watch this space.
Watch this space.
Access down under. All right, everyone. Thank you for listening. And this is the first of what I hope to be many, 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 many podcasts with many, 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 many awesome people. But Mr. Mark Kerr, I'm so grateful you were my first.
Thank you very much. I'm super happy. And have we got any like finishing theme music, or can we?
Oh, it'll come. Oh, if you would like to do the honours.
I suppose we've finished the first show. So if you want to break into Like a Virgin by Madonna, I would love to hear that.
What if we actually just leave it up to the professionals, this part?
Wow, I'd probably be cheaper.
Thanks, everyone.
See ya.
See you next time on Consciousness Road Trip.
Yay!